It's almost like an acid trip sometimes when I see certain scenes in his movies.
I feel like I need to be like 10 times more annoying about promoting this than I am. We love to say, oh, we're a BIPOC group, we're together, but it's funny with
Do you want to get into that now, Bruce? Do you want to
Lakeith Stanfield's soul sucking demon.
Don't let these men distract you.
Welcome back to the Black Oregon POV podcast. I'm your host, Bruce Poinsett. And this is the show where myself and the guests ask the big questions and explore the big ideas from a Black Oregonian perspective. Today, we are once again doing some film talk with Kristina Mucker, but this time we're talking about Boots Riley's new film, I Love Boosters. So, Christina, just a quick intro for those who weren't there for our talk about Is God Is, and you should definitely go back and watch that. But Christina is an education instructor at Movie Madness. Her background is enriched by her love of psychological thrillers, socially conscious horror, Southern heritage, and Black feminist thought. She hails from West Louisville, Kentucky, and has been in Portland for 7 years now. Christina, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So, just for those who maybe missed our Is God Is discussion, can you just talk about the work you do at Movie Madness and some of the classes you put on?
Yes, so I've been an education instructor at Movie Madness for 2 years now. I love what I do, and I love the people that I get to work with. There are numerous instructors underneath Movie Madness University, and we all have our own niche or lane, and mine is showing films that are either written or directed or created or have some type of influence, Black influence, and using those films to have a socio-political conversation. And some of the classes that I've taught recently is Spike Lee, She's Gotta Have It. I had a Black exploitation double feature last year. And my most favorite sought after or sold out class is Black Southern Gothic, where we explore the films The Color Purple, Beloved, Eve's Bayou, and Daughters of the Dust. And so I really enjoy being able to show films that either people grew up on or maybe it's their first time engaging with it and having conversations around how it impacts their themselves after watching it, or what types of things come up given, what's going on in the world, or uh, their own like identity. And I really enjoy what I do. And so if you are interested, please come to one of my classes, upcoming classes, and highly encourage anyone who's Black or part of the African diaspora to definitely uh, come out and see what I do, and let's have a conversation.
Absolutely. And how can people sign up or learn more?
Yes, the easiest thing that you can do that doesn't really take anything besides an email address is subscribing to Movie Madness, the Hollywood Theater's newsletter. That is the best way to get informed about upcoming classes before they even go on sale. And another thing that you can do is become a member at Movie Madness. If you love films, if you're passionate about films, if you want to invest your money in a more intentional way, and you just have some coins just burning in your pocket, then you can become a member, and that gives you access to classes at a discounted rate. You can also follow me at my name, Kristina Mucker. I try to post about when I'm teaching classes as soon as those dates are on the calendar. And I love, like I said, when Black folks across the diaspora reach out to me. So if budget is an issue, please hit me up or at my email. Um, my email is Kristina Mucker at Gmail, or you can use my movie madness email, which I believe is also available on the website. So either way, you can do any of those things to attend a class. I want to make sure it's accessible as possible to anyone. So hopefully any of those things work for you if you're interested in attending either my film class or any of the wonderful other film education instructors.
Absolutely. So before we get into the talk about the film itself, one of the things we were talking about offline is just kind of this moment, this like renaissance of Black filmmakers and writers and what it means to support Black films in this moment. I think one of the things we were saying is just like you have friends who are not really big on Boots Riley, but felt a need to be out there and go support, go see this. And in Boots' case, like he's made headlines just by being all over Twitter specifically. I refuse to call it X. So all over Twitter, just promoting the movie. Even just the funniest one to me, I think there was like someone tweeted, if it feels like Boots Riley is tweeting to me personally, and then he replies to them, which is like, yes, I am tweeting to you personally, but just responding to everything. Some of it's like goofier than others.
Like I do
And
not have someone, I do not have a social media manager. This is me.
yeah. And, you know, just the commentary even around that of saying like, what does it mean to, because, like when he does this commentary, like some of it's kind of more jokey like that, but it's always like, very much like when you're trained to, was in like organizing spaces, it's like the AHUI thing, name a problem, give people hope, uh, tell them that, was it? Now I'm forgetting the acronym, but basically there's like the way you sell things and pitch people to like whether it's
Mm,
signing a petition, joining an action,
mhm.
everything. And like he'll just name like, hey, we're gonna be taken out of these theaters if you don't go see the movie. Someone will type, yeah, I'm planning to go see the movie this weekend, and Boots will be like, go see it Tuesday, just
Yeah, like very being
aggressively.
very direct and very
Yeah.
aggressive. Yeah, that's that's what I really wanted to say. But yes, very aggressive in promoting this film.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah. So I guess like I know you're not probably for a number of reasons, but also probably just for health and well-being, not on Twitter like that. But I guess like what would you make of one of just like Boots' campaign?
mhm,
Like you agree with me on the word aggressive, but just as
mhm.
like someone who's like deep into film and sees like
Yeah.
what it takes to get these movies made. Like
I
what do you make
think
of it?
I think that, if you're an independent filmmaker, if you're someone who's operating without a big budget, oftentimes you're having to do things that might feel unconventional. We've lived long enough to see different ways of promoting art. And in the age of social media, sometimes that's the way to do it. I've seen some very interesting in-person and online ways of promoting films. I think about even though I wasn't a big fan of the movie, Carrie had a whole social media campaign around it, and they were doing things in person around the movie that were really creepy to get people to go see it. I think about what was going on with Barbie and Oppenheimer or Barbieheimer. Uh, Someone's recently came up with the with obsession in back rooms, back sessions, and it's been a whole thing that I've been seeing on social media. Although that's a very questionable. And I think it's we live in an era where you're like the conventional or the old school way of, and I'm in comms, so of marketing and advertising, it looks different. And for some people, it might seem like a lot or annoying, but this is an avenue that a lot of people tend to do in order to get seen. We were talking earlier, I forget the context, but about rage baiting. And I think about how people will get so annoyed at seeing certain things, and I'm like, but you're engaging with it, so that's why the algorithm keeps showing you it because you're engaging with it. And also this thing was created for you to engage with it because it's rage bait. And so for all the ways in which people might find his strategy annoying, it's not just him, or he could just be waking up and saying, I just want to be annoying. But I think there's a strategy behind it, even if you yourself don't think there is, as from someone that comes from the comms world. A lot of times I can see things as this is there's nothing to this, or there's a strategy to it. And I think there's a strategy to him interacting in the way that he does. And honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised if it wasn't him and there was somebody else. But I think he's not a big enough, and I mean this very respectfully, but I don't think that he's someone who has gotten so large that it's unrealistic to think that he manages his own social media. But I can see at some point in time that being the case. Um, and then to the question or the statement around, I guess, supporting Black films, or, going to the theater, I think I have a two-pronged thought around that. One thought is that, yes, it is very important. Go to the movies, y'all. Please, like, go to the movies. Keep theaters alive. Keep stores like Movie Madness alive. We saw what happened to Blockbusters. We're seeing what's happening to streaming services. Like, it truly has turned into a monopoly, and we're being like both bamboozled and gaslit. Like, our wallets are being bamboozled and gaslit. And I'm so happy that we're in the resurgence of physical media. So please, like, physical media, go out to theaters, go support things that you care about if you care about it. And I'm like a low-key hater, and there are things that I don't want to engage with that is really popular in the Black community. I always say, if Tyler Perry has a number one hater, it's me. If there's only one hater, it's me. If there's none, then I'm dead. I do not mess with that man. So I actively choose to not engage with his work. And there are certain artists that I feel like are beloved, not without critique, because people do critique Perry, but are loved and want to see him succeed and believe in him and love his work. It's just not for me. And so I think that it's up to you to make that decision on whether or not you support an artist's work. I think that two things can be true at once. So, yes, you can be a supporter of Black art and Black work. And if that artist isn't speaking to you, or if they are uh, just not your cup of tea, or they don't fall in line with your own personal politic, then you don't have to force yourself to watch it. But if it's one of those things where you're like, I don't like Boots Riley's style of filmmaking, but hey, I'm just gonna go see him. But if you don't really fuck with him on an individual level, then I'm not the one to tell you that you have to put that aside just to support someone that you don't like.
Mm. Oh, well said. And
Thank
to your
you.
point, to your point about kind of piece, where I do think there's just some level of you have to scream fire in a stadium at some point, no matter what you're doing. And
Yeah.
especially if you are, again, like you're not like you said, like it's very realistic to believe that Boots does his own social media. If not,
Yeah.
he's got an amazing copywriter who has captured that voice and that energy.
Has captured his voice and knows it really well, which also happens.
Yeah.
I've done social media managing. I know what that entails, but I do remember a time when I didn't know that celebrities had social media managers, and I thought that we were actually interacting with them. Come to find out, it
Nope.
was Karen, or Karen probably was not the right name to come up with, but you know.
Right.
But
Right.
it's someone else that's not this person.
Yeah. And but honestly, because it's a thing that I know, I mean, honestly, even with this platform, I look at it and say, am I really, I feel like I need to be like 10 times more annoying about promoting this than I am. And, you know, that's a existential question for another time, but it's
Mm,
just like
mhm,
in a world where beyond just like bigger platforms, smaller platforms, just where everyone is creating and there's just so much out there and so much competing for our time in an
mhm.
entertainment world, never mind just like life and day jobs and families and every other obligation. Like there is something to being disruptive, however you can afford to be disruptive. So it's
Yeah.
just kind of it is how the business is.
Mhm.
Um, but to move it to the film itself, because I watch I watch the Ringerverse and specifically like the Midnight Boys show, and they do like this like to do this like midnight manifest where they do the plot of the movie, and Charles Holmes like will sum it up in like 2 or 3 minutes. And I was trying to think of like how do I do that for I Love Boosters? And I'm gonna
Honestly, you should try. You should try. I have like I can even put on a timer. Let's see like how quick you can do it. Wait a minute.
this is gonna be
Uh, a stopwatch. Okay, start now.
so I'm gonna try and normally I would try and do like the spoiler free plot with this, but I let's see if I can just get through this. Okay. So there's Corvette who's played by Kiki Palmer, as well as Mariah and Sade, and they are the Velvet Gang, a group of boosters. And like one of their targets are the stores owned by Christy Smith, who's played by Demi Moore, is this like powerful designer, and she has a bunch of stores. They're all like different like color schemes, yeah, not even schemes, just one monocolors. It'll be like the green store one day,
Yes.
the yellow store one day. Anyways, they target the stores. Christy Smith, degrades them. I believe, let's see, she called them in an interview on the show, quote, low class urban bitches. So we've already established that whatever, that conflict that got me there. Anyways, they meet Poppy Lou's character, uh yeah, Jian Hu, who's also a booster but has this like machine that just like they see it on a video camera is literally like sucking up all the clothes in the store. And so, they kidnap her to be like, hey, you're our competition. They link up and find out that she's connected with basically like the factory that makes the clothes in China, and that is basically trying to like link them into like a bigger scheme to kind of like get back at Christy
Mhm.
Smith. And mm, like, whew, this is tough. Like
Doing
try,
good. You're doing
trying to
good.
go through this is tough. Um, so they link up with her, and this machine is. It turns out it doesn't just like transport things; it also has a couple other buttons. One that kind of like deconstructs everything to its materials, and then one that accelerates conflict. So you've got this machine. At some point, Christy Smith has mentioned these mysterious $100,000 suits that the Velvet Gang is trying to get their hands on. And let's see. So, yeah. Like I'm literally looking at the page trying
I
to sum
think
this
that
up now.
honestly,
Let's
I
talk.
think that that's like a good description of it.
Okay, so yeah, they have adventures and things through that great description of movies, but get to the point where they find out that earlier in the film, so I forget which one of Corvette's friends, but she takes her to this like pyramid scheme thing
Mm,
led by Mr. Jack or Dr. Jack, who's played by Don Cheadle. And it's basically a way for Boots to just explain that capitalism is a pyramid scheme. They even have like a chart with like Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos at the top and
mm,
everything. But anyways, they find out that Dr. Jack, as well as some other characters that have appeared on the film, so like the crash out teen and the person in the community who, what was it? Um, it's like people who appear on the news to basically like advance
mhm,
certain
mhm,
points that, you know, basically reinforce the current power
mhm,
structures. But anyways, they find out that those people are all actors and they're actually wearing the $100,000 suits, but the $100,000 suits are their skin. So they take that off and then they're like these skinless people and more hijinks ensue. Somewhere the police get involved and Eric Andre is chasing them and they press the accelerator button, to which Eric Andre then gets like a fully decked out
mhm,
police
mhm,
tank. But anyways, because it's a Boots movie, oh, there's also like in all Boots movies, there's two, but in all the Boots movies, there's Violetta, who is like the union organizer who's kind of like sneaking around trying to recruit people to yeah, join the union, strike against Christine Smith's factory or stores. So eventually, you know, Velvet Game's kind of skeptical of her. They're kind of on their own mission, but eventually they link up. They press the accelerator. It accelerates everything into like a full blown strike. And somewhere also along the line, like Lakeith Stanfield is in this as kind of like the not love interest is actually more of a distraction. But yeah, he sucks women's souls out through eating them out. There's literally a scene where, fun fact, he's with his actual partner, but he's eating her out. She levitates. He turns into like a gigantic monster. She's squirting everywhere, and then she falls down. Her soul is sucked out, and like her skin literally turns dry and scaly because she's had her soul sucked out. But that's a part of the movie as well. Um, and a big concept in this is dialectical materialism, which I had to look up, but basically according to this Wikipedia page, dialectical materialism proposes that the world is material, that all phenomena are the result of matter in motion, and that the world's evolution is the product of a dialectical process driven by internal contradiction. So after the strike, uh, let's see. Somehow Jianhu finds that by deconstructing the clothes, she's able to reverse her mother's cancer. Also, her mother has cancer, and that's another motivating factor. And the Velvet Gang opens a community center to, again, sell affordable clothes. How long was that?
You are at 6 minutes and 30 seconds.
Um, yeah, so that was I Love Boosters. Um, and I don't
Still
know.
see it. Still
So
see. I
yeah,
don't know. Is it still in theaters?
it's still I think it's still in the living room right now for at least another week.
Okay.
But I don't know, for as someone who's seen the film multiple times, I've seen it once. Was that, I know you're timing that out, but was that coherent at all? Because that felt, and the movie
Well,
was all over the place, but that really felt all over the place in trying to describe
the
it.
movie is all over the place, and it's uh his films are it's almost like an acid trip sometimes when I see certain scenes in his movies. And I think that when anyone tries to describe them or talk about the layers and the interpretations, I'm like, kudos to you. I love watching things that have like little nuggets and Easter eggs for us to pick up on, but I feel like he takes that and just runs with it. And so sometimes I think, at least for myself, I too struggle describing it. I've just been saying that it's a movie on capitalism, anti-capitalism, and class and racial solidarity and fellatio, I guess. Yeah, that's pretty much what it's about.
I guess well, I don't even know where to start with the spoiler talk analysis, but I think yeah, we'll start with just like this film as a commentary on the fashion industry because
Hmm.
obviously like it's bigger like commentary on capitalism and using the fashion industry is kind of like the vehicle for that. But it was part of the setting is so Christine Smith has her office is this slanted building. So like and they're like and I think I've watched some interviews with Bruce Riley where he talks about like generally like using the influence of cartoons and there's one point because like the room is slanted, right?
Hmm.
So when Corvette sneaks into the room pretending to be like a delivery person and she's trying to get out, she can't like she's literally has like the Bugs Bunny like wheel legs or whatever
Hmm.
trying to get out of there. But for whatever reason, like well not for whatever reason because it's obviously like a symbol, but like Christine Smith has no problem walking through there.
Hmm.
And I was curious, like, what did you make of that as far as like the imagery, the symbolism of that?
I, and maybe this is not deep enough
Mhm.
for some people, but I saw it as a symbolism or manifestation of how much society and these institutions are crooked. Uh, you know, I think that I always say systems, not people, systems, not people, but also there's like an asterisk at the end of it because we comprise of those systems. We influence and change and make those systems, right? And so I think that her office and that building was just a manifestation of the crookedness in the fashion industry, but also in the crookedness of her stealing from Black women and the way that these fashion houses, these businesses will take ideas and sell them as their own. I think of there's so many different amazing Black fashion folks. I'm not in that world. I love fashion, but it's not like I couldn't tell you the history and things behind it. But I think about someone like a Dapper Dan who was able to take things that were already from these like large fashion houses, but turn it into something that was more unique and incorporated like African and Black styles and how the influence from what he did. Like I think he has a partnership with Gap or he used to have a partnership with Gap. And it's just wow to see the influences that obviously he had from these fashion houses, but those fashion houses also had influences on other people and so on and so forth. And that's not an issue. I think we spoke at some point in time about how I think during Obsession about how it's the film it's Obsession where I don't think it's wrong to have to be inspired, influenced by something and you deciding to create art from that. But I think it is important to pay people what they deserve. And, it's really important, especially in this day and age with AI and just the internet in general, to give credit where credit is due, to know and learn and understand where things are derived from. And yeah, and I think it also too maybe a symbolism of because we see her in this office and she's able to really maneuver around this office pretty well.
Mhm.
But then we see Kiki Palmer in her office and she's just struggling. And you could just say, oh, well, of course, like she's never been in this building. But it's like she's never been in this building. She's never been in this position. So it's like you see her struggling to be in this space that was not mindful of her or anyone that looks like her 'cause she's the only person except for the woman with the food stand who is you could for all intents and purposes say someone who is making less than Demi Moore's character who's in a different financial class situation, so even though she's white she's making significantly less than her, and she's struggling in her office. The only person or people that seem to be doing well in this space are all people who are in close proximity with Demi Moore's character. So, you know what? I'll be honest, a lot of that I didn't think about until right now.
Fair
Hmm.
enough.
Hmm. I don't know how that sounded, but how did that sound to
No,
you?
oh, that made sense.
Did it make sense? Sometimes I say
Uh,
things and I'm like, I don't know. That made sense, but I'm glad it did.
well, when you talk about, Kiki Palmer struggling in that same building, again, it kind of like it spells out that dynamic where on one hand you have Chrissy Smith with this big platform, the money, going on TV, talking about the Velvet Gang, but the irony is that, like in one of the stores they were working in, Kiki Palmer's like, "Hey, this is my design." She's like
It's
literally her design. So she's like stealing from them while telling them, "Oh, these, yeah, these low class, they're stealing from me." Like, and
But you're also one of the low cap class bitches. You're
mhm,
just a rich low class bitch, like
mhm.
it's 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 like you've created this opportunity for this thing to happen. It's almost like, and I won't get into details about fast fashion because I feel like there's probably another place to in this conversation to talk about it, but it's, the critique that you see people like Kim Kardashian or other celebrities, they begrudge it. I mean, and obviously environmentalists begrudge it, but I think celebrities do in a different way. And it's just like you're stealing designs and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like it's such a complex thing. It's not just what I think they make it out to be. And to like you yourself as a part of the problem, you're critiquing this thing that you are actively engaging with and are making worse. But you don't see that. You just see you make it an external issue of I don't do that. Everything comes from up here. But it's like again, we don't there aren't that many. I think about what my grandmother used to say, there aren't that many new things under the sun, not to take away from people creating things and doing things, but there's so much that gets influenced, especially in now when we live on the internet and we almost are in this homogenous society where there's so much overlap and there aren't these distinctive things that are available to people. And so I think that, yeah, it's just a really complicated conversation. Again, I will reiterate, I know nothing about fashion. I have a friend who, if you ever want to talk to, lovely person who knows everything and breaks down the Met Gala whenever it happens. But I just think from a anti-capitalist perspective, those types of visuals were really poignant and I really liked them. I know it was meant to be funny, but it's also it's saying something while also being funny.
Yeah. And it kind of like I said, the movie really like highlights the different levels of exploitation in the fashion industry. So you
Mhm.
have like the designer stealing from the people who she's also demeaning for, boosting from her stores. But then there's like at the stores themselves, like there's the scene where they have like the lunch break and it's I mean,
Also, did you
what
notice how empty those stores were? I mean, I
oh
know
yeah,
times are hard, but those stores were empty.
super empty. But yeah, so they have like the lunch break where it's literally a gag of basically like going on the starting blocks for a race to make
Mhm.
that 30-minute lunch or
Which, if you worked in retail, I used to work at the mall. I worked at the mall twice. That's
mm,
just how lunch break is. When you
yeah.
would have breaks, it's literally like
Yeah,
that.
it's a race. So you have on that level, but then you take it to again when you bring in Jianhu and
Mhm,
you're at the factory where it's like, oh, you see like these working conditions to make these clothes and these people are suffering or dying
mhm,
and making so little.
mhm.
And it's just like again, like it's a Boots movie, so it's highlighting these different levels, weaving them all together. Um, yeah, and kind of with that, on to bring it to I think the next thing I'll talk about is like the machine itself is like a device. So we get
The cool
introduced to
machine.
it. Yeah, we get introduced to it again. It's like uh was a Poppy Lou's character just transporting the clothes to China. But again, it also has, it's the dialectical materialism machine. So it also has the deconstruct button. And, that gets used throughout to again like
Mhm.
break things down. But then there's also the accelerator that again like accelerates things to like the logical conclusion of the conflict. But what did you make of the machine, both just in itself, but then also I guess as a plot device, really?
Obviously, that device is I mean, Kiki is the star of the movie, but the close second is that device, and what its ability to do. Just kind of like we were talking about obsession, you kind of have to suspend disbelief and be like, okay, like I know this is in a alternate, magical, fantastical reality. But I think also too, it says something about where we're getting our clothes from, where it's sourced from, what um what all it takes what all it takes to create the fabrics that you wear. It's a whole process, and a lot of people who are making little to nothing are involved in that process of making those clothes and putting themselves in very dangerous situations and environments to do so. And so I saw from maybe an environmentalist perspective, that deconstruction of materials of look at the resources that we use in order to make our clothes and make these things that oftentimes end up in waste. um, and destroying the environment, like the same things that we're extracting from the environment, we're using to destroy the environment. And then I also see it as a way to talk about, because the acceleration button, that was one thing that was hard for me to really understand. And I think I don't even want to try to describe what I think it means, because I'm gonna sound like a blubbering fool, but I think in terms of what it does for deconstructing um, clothings, items, people, um, and transporting. I think that really resided with me in terms of the overall story around capitalism and, like I said, fast fashion and things that aren't great for the environment, but we still opt into for better or worse, and deconstructing what that means. And it's not a easy thing to talk about or contend with because I have a very nuanced opinion about fast fashion that I know a lot of people probably wouldn't agree with. But um, yeah, I think something like that machine that Boots created really had me thinking about the environmental aspect of things, but also the way that it impacts us on a human level, not just the environment.
Hmm. I'll say the first thing that came to mind wasn't even like the fashion industry. It was just like I was thinking of bullet trains actually, and just
Really?
well, one of the
Hmm.
conversations it comes up is just like the advancement of like technology or why we can't have certain things in the US that they are doing, I guess, like in other places like China and specifically
Hmm.
like high speed rail. And I was just like looking at, you know, I guess my interpretation is like, we wouldn't even know if, you know, because we're so insulated in this country and we're constantly patting ourselves on the back, like, oh, we're the greatest country in the world, America, whatever.
Hmm.
But meanwhile, how unrealistic is it that they would have this accelerator machine or this dialectical materialism machine in China made right now versus,
No,
the
it's
other.
it could, I mean, I don't think that sounds conspiracy theory. I don't know if that's what
Mhm.
you were getting at. Like it's like this thing that couldn't possibly exist. But yeah, to your point, it's happening right now. Mentioned AI earlier. I also have a really complicated relationship with AI as someone who's in grad school and has been encouraged to use it. I was in undergrad 10 years ago, and AI was not something that was a part of my education, was not a part of the tools that I use to do things with. And now it's a part of my schooling, it's a part of my education, it's a part of the work that I do, my 9 to 5. And I'm constantly, literally every single day, having to reckon with being a part of the damage that AI is causing, while also knowing that given the nature of the work that I do, I it's just I can't just completely opt out of it. And obviously, the argument is like AI's been around for a long time, and there's things that we use like Siri that we've been doing. But I think what makes this so scary, what makes it so horrific in the minds of so many people is that what does that mean in terms of this gap that already exists for people who are poor and working class and Elon Musk, who just literally became a trillionaire, right? Like that gap was already wide and getting wider, but with AI, it's going to accelerate that. And obviously, people who have a stake in this, who outside of environmentally aren't going to be impacted by it, they're not going to tell you to stop using it. They're not going to discourage you from using it. They're not going to want to have conversations about the dangers of AI, even though I think the creator of Claude has in few instances talked about the dangers or realities of it. But I don't think that we really understand where we're headed. And I don't mean to sound nihilistic on your platform, Bruce, but I think I have a hard time imagining that it's going to get better. I think we're going to have to grapple with a lot more than what we're dealing with or that we've currently dealt with. And yeah, it's scary. It's scary and also not surprising. I think there have been things that prior generations have done that, we we as millennials or even younger look at, and it's just like, how did they not know? How did they not know that they were polluting the water? How did they not know that they were making it harder for me to live in this country? Like, how do they not know? And I think that's going to be something that we're going to be having to hear if we're still around, for future generations, whatever the new generation will be named at that point in time. But it's like, how did they not know that they were doing this to us and that we were going to be the ones that have to live through that? It's almost like what is it, the Man Bear Pig season of South Park as a euphemism for environmental change and uh, destruction of our planet Earth. Which again, South Park is funny, it's great, whatever, but it's one of the few shows that I've seen kind of talk about it in a way where it shows the generation that caused it and the generation that's having to contend with it. And, I think we think of AI as something that's far in the distance. We don't have to worry about it. By the time we get, hopefully we'll either be dead or too old to care. But that is very selfish way of thinking. And that's, what older generations were doing when they were spraying hairspray and damaging the ozone and companies causing irrevocable damage to this planet, which will continue to exist long, beyond us. Like it'll impact us, but the world will continue. We should definitely be afraid. And so I sorry to go on a tangent. And again, hopefully that doesn't seem too nihilistic, but I think that it's one of those things that out of all of the things that could be keeping me up at night, it's definitely in the top three things that keeps me up at night.
Yeah, I think that eh, talking about AI is a great parallel there, and I'm in a similar space where, on one hand, there's again all the perils of AI, but also I know a bunch of people who work in tech or in like the tech departments of you know their industries, and so I know like how, or I have a little bit of a picture of like how much this stuff is just like literally like pushed, especially in like university settings and a lot of like corporate settings. And also from a personal perspective, like maybe I don't go out, like I'm not doing AI art, but at the same time,
Oh my God.
like
Okay, can I just say
oh
right
well,
now, please, please
go ahead.
stop with the AI posters. Like they're ugly, they're not creative. They look like very rudimentary elementary posters. Just hop on Canvas and make something, but please, please, for the love of God, put the AI down for art and for these posters. But continue, Bruce. I'm sorry. I just had to say that because I see it all the time and it just, yeah, I can't. I can't.
So I appreciate the PSA, and it's funny enough, not the first time that has happened involuntarily on this platform. So, I might make a super cut of that at some point. But anyways, uh, what was I saying?
You were talking about the folks that you know who work in tech
Oh,
and how like you're not surprised that it's in educate or institutions and
right,
yeah.
right. So yeah, like I'm not going back to the days of hand transcribing an hour-long interview.
Oh no.
Sorry to the world,
No.
but also I guess to that point, then that's why I like with Boots films where even though it's like he's a communist and you can be like perceived as radical, like the solution in his film is always a strike. Like it's just
Yes.
solidarity and
Yes.
working class solidarity and striking. Like when we talk about
Mhm.
AI and we talk about data centers, we're talking about more a moratorium on data centers is not an extreme solution in any means. It's literally like let's stop and do this more thoughtfully. Let's put in some regulation. So I just think that's interesting when like something is like viewed as like, or at least perceived as so radical. But kind of to that point on the piece about solidarity, another theme of this is like specifically like Black and Chinese solidarity. And I want to talk a little bit about that because, just in organizing in spaces, especially in Oregon, I can only speak for that, where we love to say on a larger level, we love to say, oh, we're a BIPOC group, we're together. But it's funny with,
Do you want to get into that now, Bruce? Do you want to
I
talk
mean,
about that?
I guess do you, because I know you're on a, for the peeling behind the curtain, there's a little time crunch here.
I know, but I just don't even you look, you activate. You are activating something in me and I
Oh, let's just see let's see what happens.
okay.
So I'll just say from my personal experience and being in a lot of spaces trying to organize and, hey, we're gonna go under like the BIPOC umbrella, and it sounds great, but it often falls apart very fast because one, there's just anti-blackness is
It,
everywhere. And,
period.
isms of all cases are everywhere, but just in like the power dynamics, especially like operating a place like Lake Oswego, you know, they put us on the bottom of the food chain. And it turns out just because people, want to, I don't know how else to say it, but, go off the movement of like Black Lives Matter and like
Hmm.
Black organizers in general and want to build off of that for themselves. That doesn't
Didn't
mean
you
they
write
respect us anymore.
something about this a while
I've
that
written
you
several, I've written a lot of things about this. Have, I definitely have thoughts, and but I will say, I think to the film, well, I think it's important to depict these things, but also not just like romanticize it, but
no.
like actually add some like
Yeah.
real substance to it is important
Well, like
because again, like there's plenty of people who just they love to say it. They love to say,
mhm.
"Oh yeah, we're together," but it's not it's not real,
Well,
and it falls apart.
it's not a kumbaya thing, right? Like, and I think maybe a lot of kind of white folks
Hmm.
see it as that. And I'm like, I always love to bring up the Jim Jones cult as like, that was very diverse. They had a bunch of black people up in there. And then look what happened. So it's not about it can't just be about that because there's real harm. And to your point, it's anti-blackness that exists and that is prevalent. Some of the most impactful anti-blackness that I have received has been at the hands of a person of color. That's just what it is. That's my experience. I know that that's an experience that other people have as well. And I didn't really know that that was possible, I think, until I moved out here. And I'm not saying that it doesn't exist in other places, but I think when you live in an area like Portland or a major city like LA, where it's like we're liberal and we don't do those things like they do in the South. When I moved out here, there were multiple people that were like, "Oh my God, I'm I know you're glad to not be in Kentucky." And I'm like, "It was illegal to be black here." Like, and we're still experiencing the effects of that to this day. Redlining exists, discrimination still exists in these areas that you think are so liberal and so progressive. It's not new. I think the only thing that's different is that in the South, it's more apparent. It's in your face. It's not shrouded behind niceness and trying to not come across as problematic, and on social media they talk about what is it, therapy speak or liberal speak? I don't know what it is, but it's that type of speak where it says a lot without saying anything, and it's meant to come across as, yeah, I'm on your side. Like I too would have voted for Obama a third time if I could. Um, and it's really infuriating because I think that whenever you call it out, there's always some level of gaslighting that happens. And we already experience so much gaslighting already as Black folks living in this country. But I like to think about like what James Baldwin says. I think that Black folks out of any other race is not only aware of how they engage and interact in the world, but how other people perceive that engagement and how they react to that. So it's not like it's coming out of the ether. Like we're seeing things and we're speaking to those things. And when you deny us being able to talk about it because you're sensitive or you don't like to hear the hard thing or deal with the difficult thing, that's not that's not solidarity. I know in a lot of nonprofit spaces, it's like instead of being an ally, be an accomplice. It's, I don't really don't care. I don't give a fuck what the label you want to put on it is. It's all the same thing to me. Um, I think that in order to be in solidarity with one another, and again, you're not going to get the depths of what it means to be in solidarity in a movie like I Love Boosters. You're just not. And that doesn't take away from how much I like the movie because I really liked the movie. Um, but what I Love Boosters, like other films, fail to or they can't reflect our show is the the levels of work and the intentionality and again the cost of what it takes to come together and be in solidarity with one another. No real change comes without a cost. And I think some people want to go about liberation and solidarity in ways that makes it to where it doesn't cost them. It's they don't want to feel that inconvenience. They don't want to feel called out. They don't want to be perceived as a bad person or someone who doesn't do the work. But it takes more than just being in a book club and reading the books and knowing the right words and being able to say the right things and being in relationships with Black people to then have Black babies and like it's more than that. And so I think that I don't think I looked at like I Love Boosters as, oh, this is going to be a really radical movie and it's gonna, yes, it highlighted different things that are really important when it comes to capitalism and the fashion industry and class solidarity. But I think about my time here and the things that I've experienced at the hands of people of color, whether intentionally or not, and the reaction that comes with my reaction of what I've experienced. And I just, I personally don't trust anyone who says that they are that they want to see this future that we're so desperately hoping happens, maybe not in our lifetime, but eventually, if you can't acknowledge that there is some uncomfortability that you're not okay with, and that you yourself has you've come to the point where you understand and acknowledge that a loss is going to be had, that will most likely feel very personal. Will be, won't most likely it will be. In order to get to that solidarity, we have to deconstruct whiteness. And in order to deconstruct whiteness, people are going to have to move and operate in ways that they never did before. And again, people don't want to do that. They want to be able to pick up a book and have the education and the knowledge and show up to a few protests. And that is a part of the work, but it doesn't just stop there.
Yeah. like you said, like with this movie, there's no way it was
There's
going
no
to be
way.
able to do, what we're talking about. But
Mm-mm.
does as I just think about this conversation, I guess I'll specifically go to like just Black and Asian dynamics in my time in like Lake Oswego because it's a weird, it's a mind fuck, really. When you're like tabling at events, back in my days of being with like Respond to Racism, and you're at like the AAPI event or the Asian Cultural Celebration, and these things that people, some of the organizers would tell you, like these events that wouldn't exist without our organization coming first. And yet, you know, I've had some of the like counter MAGA rally experiences, but or counter MAGA protester experiences, but you want to talk about feeling out of place is, just at the Respond to Racism table, specifically at like Asian cultural celebrations in Lake Oswego. And it's like, this is, yeah, it's not new. I grew up in this town, but
Yeah.
it's just like, it's disappointing. It's disappointing, it's disheartening.
Well, especially because it doesn't have to be this way.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be this way, but it's also like, again, knowing that we're at these things that would not exist without like the foundation, specifically like the foundation like my mom put in. And yet I see the way like these people treat, whether it's myself, whether it's her,
Hmm.
you know, even in the because like there's just plenty of othering in that space, but even like the people who know us are more like familiar.
Yeah.
And there's people who have no problem again just doing the same thing white people do, where it's like you stand
Yeah.
next to us, you're happy to be in the pictures, you're happy to appropriate the language, but there's no willingness to take accountability for how you show up, how you exploit us, how you exploit our labor, how when it's time, like when shit goes down, and they do like the Homer Simpson meme where you just disappear into the bushes, and like, but then want to talk about BIPOC solidarity or we should
Yeah.
do some more Black and
I
Asian events. Why
and I
why
even
can't we
hate I
do
even
more
hate
of
the
this?
word BIPOC. Like, like these acronyms that
Mm,
don't mean anything. Like, what does that mean? This is for BIPOC. Like, and then it's you show up and it's like, oh no, this is for Asian people. Or no, this is for Black people. Like, just say the thing. And I keep going back to this, like the speak that I think happens, especially in spaces out here where people can't just talk normally. Like they just can't talk in a way that makes sense to me, especially as I'm getting older. And it feels really frustrating because like in the same way that I think there needs to be an acknowledgement by white and POC folks that they need to put in the work and it's not just enough to be around people and say that you do X, Y, and Z and whatever. You also have to engage in that discourse in that work too. So it's not just like, well, just I just tell me what to do and I'll do anything because that's equally as annoying. I don't
mm,
engage with it, have a spine, be able to articulate things in a way that is accurate and honest, but also speaks to what's happening. Stop using all of this jargon that just again says a bunch of shit without saying anything. And to understand that just because I feel like this is like diversity 101.
mm,
You can be a person of color. You can be someone who looks similar to me and still cause harm. That does not take away from the harm that you experience and the unique type of harm that you experience. But understand that we live in a society that is inherently anti-Black. We live in a world that is inherently anti-Black. And you have the choice whether you want to opt into that or not. And there's no way to opt out of it without you having to give up something or to move in a different way or, you know, I remember when I was like on my own personal journey of like understanding more about my history and, political activism. And there were people that I lost along the way. There were people that I rubbed the wrong way. There were people that I always say that like at some point in time when you're doing political activism, it's almost like the stages of grief. And I can like see it so clearly how it's like, okay, you get really activated and then you end up wanting to do all the things and then you realize like you kind of get burnt out or it's like you are aware of like how deep and insidious all of this shit is. And then from there you might lose some people or you might end up having relationships that shift and change. At some point in time, you end up being in an echo chamber where everyone's just saying the same shit and nothing new is coming in, nothing different is coming in. And then you kind of emerge from that. And hopefully you get to a place where, again, like you're not just internalizing and taking everything in, but you're actually behaving differently. You're actually thinking differently. You're actually okay with missing out on certain things or not being able to opt into certain things because it's for the greater good. And I'm not saying that as everyone needs to do this tomorrow. There's still things that I'm trying so hard to get rid of Amazon Prime. I'm trying so hard. But as someone who doesn't have a car and isn't close to certain stores, it sometimes it's just easier for me to do that, but it's something that I'm trying to work on and trying to have more things in my life to replace the need to have that. It was really easy for me to stop going to Target. It was really easy for me to do certain things, but there are still things in my life that I'm still trying to grow and work on. And if I'm doing that as a Black woman, I got two things, being Black and being a woman, then I expect other people to you know, do that too if they care about the work, if they want to do the work, if they want to be in these spaces, because otherwise you're just causing harm. Again, whether you intend to or not, you're just causing harm and you're taking up space. So,
I
yeah.
mean, you use that example kind of made me think about this conversation around like the NAACP and like the idea of black players, black football players specifically boycotting SEC schools, where I'm not sure where you fall on that, but it was always
Uh,
kind of like
what is the
uh,
acronym?
the SEC or the
SCC,
NAACP.
yeah. Oh, Bruce, I know you didn't ask me. Actually, no, keep me on my toes. Like the NAACP? No.
But anyways, the SEC is Southeastern Football Conference.
Oh, see, sports, I don't know anything about. Also, I guess it's like the World Cup or something with football is happening right now. Go team. So
Uh,
whatever you're. Yay.
Soccer, but
Soccer. Yeah.
football for the world,
Yeah.
I guess. But anyways,
Oh, and
so
go Knicks. I have friends who love sports who are literally going to be watching or listening to this being like, God damn it.
hilarious. But so I guess in short, because again, I'm looking at the time, realize we're running. Um, okay, so the short of it is basically like with the stuff around the Voting Rights Act, the
Yeah.
NAACP was calling on black football players to basically not
Hmm.
sign to SEC schools. And while part of it is like, yeah, it could be a powerful, showing to for these athletes to withhold their labor from, this power conference of schools. I guess the other side of it was like, okay, but
You're not
what
addressing.
like one, do you even have like a relationship with these athletes? Because you're asking them to sacrifice. Are you going to stop watching college football? Or
Hmm.
how are you going to support these kids? Because
Yeah, it's
a
not
lot
addressing the
like
root issue or the root cause of, yeah.
you can because you can look at like okay, like some of these coaches. I don't really watch football like that, but it's not you know I watch the NBA and I have all these other toxic things that I consume. So it's not doesn't make me a more moral person. But the
Mhm.
thing with it is It's like this kid is going to this SEC school as possibly a stepping stone to, you know, feed their family, you know, and create opportunities for and possibly like their community and whatnot. Again, how different people use their money is a whole other thing, but you know, it's kind of like a major piece. It's not just, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It doesn't
No,
exist like, oh, everyone's just going to go to U of O, go Ducks, right? No, like it's it's a bigger thing here. And if you're just saying, I want you to sacrifice, I'm not going to sacrifice anything. I don't know you. I'm not going to actually support you in any way. Like that just kind of comes off as really hollow.
it's late stage capitalism. I
Mm,
mean, in a lot of ways, right? Because it's putting the onus on the individual, which again, we should be wanting to do better. And however, I think the older that I get and the more that I have understood and continue to understand how these systems and institutions work, you all actually have to be the change. Like I'm in environmental climate change spaces quite a bit. And I do believe that there are things that we can do on an individual level to not add to the harm that's being caused to our planet. But that doesn't mean anything if we keep building data centers that are polluting the water. That doesn't mean anything if we have multimillionaires and billionaires and trillionaires who are doing whatever they want to do because they can just probably go to space and to go to another planet and fuck that planet up. You know, it's such a I feel like so much of this is like very gaslighty, you know, because even when I was younger, I was like, yeah, we are the world, we are the children. We're the future. And then we grow up and it's like, oh shit, like y'all should have done better by us. Like you all put so much weight on our shoulders to fix the problems that you created. Like that's insane. Imagine like you were getting abused and you tell the person to stop abusing you and they turn around and say, "Well, you keep letting me abuse you, so why should I stop abusing you?" Yeah. So, but yeah, that's ugh, it's again, people don't want to hear that, but
real, damn. For actually talk about solidarity, it sounds nice, but what does that actually look like? What does the work actually look like?
mhm.
Okay, so this is the portion where I've got to get you out of here. So I'm gonna try our best to lightning round. Maybe you time this one too and see how bad this comes out.
Wait a minute, let
But
me
wow, actually put on the actual timer. No, no, I want to see. Let's test this.
Okay, wait a minute.
So,
Let me pull it up. Okay, go.
how fast can we get the last three things? Okay, so the first thing is what did you make? Do you think the message got across with the skinless people? Also, I should add that for someone watching this, that when they take the skin off, it goes into like stop motion, which
Which
boots
is so
some film.
cool. Chef's kiss.
Okay. So yeah, what did you make of the skinless people?
I I'm gonna be very honest with you and whoever's watching. I did not understand it the first time I watched it. I there's a part of me that you've seen they cloned Tyrone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I was thinking about some of that while I was watching it. Like there are these like agents of chaos that are in disguise that are meant to cause friction and create these false narratives that are harmful and impact people, but uplifts a certain other group of people. And maybe that's a part of it, but I also think that like what is our most costly, our most precious resource? Time, our bodies. What things like once they're gone, they're gone. We can't get back. Uh, so I think maybe in that way, the skinless people are a representation or a manifestation of like what is what actually is most valuable. Um, and And too, I was honestly thinking of They Clone Tyrone too. I'm not gonna hold you. It felt very Twilight Zoney. So I think that's what my first initial reaction of it. And then watching it again, kind of still felt the same way. Uh and I'll just say that. Oh my God,
Yeah.
my answers have to be shorter. They can't be that long.
Oh, I'll just add that I will say like the stop motion, it's all is a little bit jarring for me, but it is an interesting thing. I still need to see this like more than once.
Yes.
Now I know it's coming. I say with the skinless people, for me, it actually felt kind of a little more cut and dry as far as just like there's always going to be people in the community who are willing to, for lack of better terms, just like sell out to protect the status quo.
Ooh.
So in this case, you have people
Jay-Z,
who are with, he's that he's that like you have people who are like selling their skin for $100,000 or whatever.
Mhm.
But again, I'm thinking about Juneteenth celebration is coming up, and
Don't get me
there's going to be
started.
a point and the Lake Oswego Juneteenth celebration where a certain politician is going to get up on stage and say that there's no racism in LO. And
Oh, they be doing that out there? Ooh.
oh yeah, every year he has the same speech, but I'm not going to get all the way into him on this.
No. Oh my
But
God.
but hopefully this comes out before then, and if someone just wants to put their money on it, it's coming because it happens every year at every black event because he's the only black elected official in the city. And again, there's just because the other people are like the angry mother and like the let's see how Boots described
Oh my God. Yeah. Who
crying
was
black
also
mother,
in It
based
God
young
Is.
dude,
Yeah. Yeah.
upstanding
Yeah.
community member. Like they
Upstanding
all are
community
people
member.
who appear on like these news things, or of course Dr. Jack, but they're the people who
Yeah.
advance this stuff that upholds the status quo, whether it's capitalism through pyramid schemes, whether it's
Well, yeah,
advancing.
it's the thing that I went on everyone went on their own personal deep dive during the pandemic, and mine was learning about like cults and MLMs.
Mhm.
Any one of my friends can tell you there was a time period where I was talking about that in mass. And one of the things that people who are in MLM say is like, if you call what we do a pyramid scheme, then capitalism or our country or this world is a pyramid scheme. And it's like, you're getting close. Like you're you said something without probably understanding that you just said something. So I love the pyramid scheme moment. I feel like Boots probably did that for me. So
Okay. We're on the timer. We're on the timer.
we're on the
So,
timer.
second thing, do you think they stuck the landing? That pause is
No,
detrimental.
because okay, see here's the thing, Bruce. Yes, and for me personally, I don't expect to I don't expect the films that I watch to, how can I say this in a short, concise way? I think it did what it was supposed to do, it was enjoyable. I think there was a strong message. I don't know because of his stylistic choice. I'm not sure how clear that message was with some people. I don't think I've talked to anyone who hasn't gotten it, but those mostly have been my friends. And so we're all just like, yeah, yeah, we get it, we get it, we get it. But I would say if his goal was to make a fun, colorful stylistic movie that also incorporates themes of anti-capitalism and class solidarity and Black womanhood and boosters and booster culture. Um, I think he did what he needed to do, and I think he did a good job at doing that.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Okay.
leave it there. We can
Well,
text afterwards, and I can
uh,
tell you my more elaborate thoughts.
I mean, I'll say I left it with, I mean, maybe I just need to watch it again, but kind of the same thing I leave with Sorry to Bother You, where it's like, should be working class solidarity, and it would be good if we had a strike,
Yeah.
you know? And I feel
Yeah.
like, yeah. But okay, timer. So finally, the last thing is Lakeith Stanfield's soul-sucking demon. So I saw
Don't let these men distract you.
to that point, I feel like I saw a tweet that kind of encapsulated this perfectly. It said, I also love the implication of Lakeith Stanfield's character. Men are demons that only exist to distract women from union organizing. And actually, I watched Boots do an interview on Culture United earlier this, or well, technically last week because this is Sunday. And he kind of basically confirmed that, where he's like, yeah, people like, I think the character's credited as Pinky Ring Guy. And he's just like, yeah, there's distractions in this world. And, the guy who, s- will suck your soul out, he is a distraction.
It's is it worth getting good head or I don't, is it you
Mm,
have to make that choice. You have to make that choice. I I am someone who believes that people should be able to engage in sex and sexual relationships and in whatever ways are safe and consensual, period. Like however you want to do that, if it's safe, it's consensual, like great, have at it. But I do think that there's also a poignant conversation that has already been had and continues to be had around like distractions like men and ways in which women in particular have used their bodies as a way to s- speak about or try to enact change, whether that's through like deciding not to date and be with men, whether it is with like not withholding sex, but choosing not to have sex with men, um, as a way to whatever goal, whatever political goal it is that they're trying to make happen. And so I think politically, I understood it very well, but then I also am just like the larger thing of like, yeah, don't let these men distract you. Don't let anything that you feel like or is taking away from you doing what you need to do, and especially as women. I say all the time, like, I know some people's greatest fear is being single. My greatest fear is not that. I think there's so many other things that I've seen in relationships. And, I think that we have a very limited time on this earth, a limited time to do things. And if you are engaging or with someone who is taking you away or making you feel disheartened or making you step away from that work that you want to do, then maybe you shouldn't be with them and not only be with them relationship wise, but you know, sexually too, which is again a whole nother also conversation that can be had a whole, I feel like probably video episode that podcast episode that could be had. But yeah, to Kiki's point, after she heard that story, she was like, well, I need to block them. I don't have time for that. I have things that I'm trying to do. And I know that if I engage with this man, it will be a distraction. And doesn't say anything about him. We don't really get to know really that much about him, who he is or what his intentions are. But for her to be able to know herself enough to know that like if I want to do this work, I know that I can't have certain distractions. And that includes this man who sounds like it's like great or horrific. I don't know.
Mm.
It's a thin line, that part in the movie. But I think that yeah, she makes that decision for herself. And I feel like more women should feel empowered to stand on that and be able to make those decisions without feeling gaslit or feel like they're missing out or something, or that they're not doing something that everyone else is doing, you know. Not to say
Mm.
again that you don't have to have sex, that you don't have to be in relationships with men, but I think there's a divest. I always say that I think that it's really important that we divest from men. And you know, toxic masculinity needs to end, but I think there's a divestment that needs to happen too. And that doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that you don't engage with men at all. But I think in the ways that we prioritize men, especially for those who are heterosexual or decide to partner with men, you know, it's sometimes there's like a layered conversation of things that
Mm.
like end up happening when that happens. And or we give so much credence and so much time and energy spent to this thing that we've been conditioned or told to give time and energy to. And what would it look like if we divested from that? What would it look like if we and divestment doesn't mean, again, not engaging with it, but what if we prioritize more things so that men aren't the number one thing? They're not at the very top of the list. There are other things that are more important to our own personal lives and the world that we're trying to create that comes before that. What would that look like, and what type of changes would be made from then on out?
Mm.
13
Yeah,
minutes.
13. So yeah, I guess you can cut it off then, and my commentary after totally won't count. So we'll keep it at 13 minutes. Um, I'll
I don't know what
just
that was, but yes, I'm happy. 13
I
minutes.
I will just say on that, I think one, there's definitely, I feel like there's some almost like knee-jerk reaction in watching this to have kind of like a very unnuanced conversation to be like, so is this movie pro-head or anti-head? And
That's
there
what I
is,
mean. That's what I mean. Like I don't like the like, oh, if you want to engage in this work, you have to stop having sex or ha stop having sex with men. If that's what you want to do, you should still be able to do that. That's
yeah. But
yeah.
I think it also offers a bunch of like clues as like, no, it's like how this happens. Like, because Lakeith, like in his final pitch to Corvette at the end, is like, if you just love me, I will not be a demon anymore. And it's like, okay, no, it's you're actually trying to be like manipulative
You're trying to be
and
manipulative, and it's that thing of like there's this like I would say like a build-a-man phenomenon. I don't know if that's been
mm,
trademarked, but it's uh I think that for women, and this is why I say that being single isn't the thing that I fear most out of life. I think women spend a lot of time investing in men at the detriment of themselves, and
mm,
that manifests its way in like how we think, how it impacts our bodies, how it impacts our friendships and our family relationships, and so I think that Lakeith Stanfield did a really great job at uh, portraying a character that I think a lot of women who again like choose to be with men can relate to. And again, it's I don't think I try not to live in these dichotomies, right? Like I think there's a world that exists where you can do that, but again, divest and not make it a priority and be better because of that.
mm. Yeah. And I think that final point, just as a PSA out to the men of the world, you know, You you can work on your craft, and I think you should be committed to your partner's pleasure while also, again, not trying to control them and distract them from their goals in life. You can do
Oh,
both. In
you can
fact,
do both.
yeah.
Porque no los dos? Like truly,
Mm.
you can do both.
Yes.
Why not have both? Why not have both? Like, you know, there's a conversation around that too of just, yeah,
Well, long story short, you actually can't you can put time to being good in bed without using it to be controlling and manipulative.
yeah,
The end.
period.
Yes. Awesome. Well, yes, Christina, thank you again for yeah, just a whole afternoon of movie talk and analysis.
A
So,
beautiful afternoon spent. Thank you for spending the afternoon with me. I've been filled, so thank you.
yes. So it's one more time. Can you just tell people where to find you, how to sign up
Yay.
for Movie Madness University?
You can catch me in these streets this summer. No, you can find me. You can find me on Instagram, Kristina Mucker. You can email me. I said my email earlier. That's where you can find me anywhere. I'm sure that, especially with Google's AI, you can get a whole outline of where you can find where you can find me. Not scary at all. And yeah, please follow me. Please support small businesses, support film, support movies. Um, Fuck capitalism. Being Black is awesome. And yeah, and we the best. So that's all I have to say.
Christina, thank you again. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe so we can help grow this channel. And if you want more content, make sure to follow Black Oregon POV on Instagram.